This is Tom Fox. Welcome to a special 5-part podcast series, Integrity Matters, Culture, Training, and Compliance, sponsored by K2 Integrity. Over this podcast series, we will break down corporate culture, compliance training, and communications. Topics include breaking down the big picture on culture, espresso shots of training, skills development and regulatory changes, tailored and risk-based training, and operational aspects of training. In this 5-part exploration, I am joined by Kobe Bambilia, Managing Director at K2 Integrity. With more than 15 years of global experience with complex Bank Secrecy Act and anti-money laundering compliance, sanctions programs, and regulatory enforcement actions, Kobe helps financial institutions meet the challenge of complying with BSA regulations, OFAC, and the Patriot Act, and assists those facing regulatory enforcement action. He helps financial institutions adhere to regulatory consent orders that mandate review and enhancement of AML compliance, BSA, OFAC, sanctions, policies, and procedures. He implements remedial actions and helps companies comply with consent orders that mandate transaction monitoring program lookbacks. I'm also joined by Tina Rampino, Associate Managing Director at K2 Integrity, where she manages and oversees multiple financial crimes compliance training engagement with the firm's global clients. During her career, Tina has developed extensive experience managing the training elements of regulatory remedial efforts for financial institutions under critical enforcement orders. Prior to joining K2 Integrity, she was the Vice President and Head of Compliance Training at Commerzbank AG, New York branch. She was also Vice President of Compliance and Communication. In this episode 1, I'm joined by Tina Rampino, who breaks down the big picture on culture. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 1 in our 5-part series with K2 Integrity. Today, I have with me Tina Rampino, and we're going to take up the culture of compliance. So, Tina, first of all, welcome, and thank you so much for taking the time to visit with me today.
Thanks so much, Tom, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Tina, culture is one of the most bandied about words in all of compliance. So I wanted to start with that word. And what exactly is a culture of compliance?
So quite simply, a culture of compliance is really the foundation of an organization's compliance program. So in essence, it's a measure of how well employees feel empowered to identify, mitigate, and escalate risk within their institution. An institution's compliance culture is set by the bank's board and senior executive leadership teams, and that messaging should be continuously reinforced in the bank's risk appetite statement, their governance framework, policies, procedures, training, and enterprise-wide communications. So a strong compliance culture should be evident at all levels of the financial institution and across all 3 lines of defense. So I think when we first really heard about culture of compliance, it was when the regulators criticized HSBC about 10 years ago and blamed their compliance failures on a lack of compliance culture throughout the organization. So this was a fairly new concept then, but it's become something that financial institutions have committed to allocating budget and resources towards building. So a few questions that we might want to ask when we're thinking about what a culture of compliance really means is, what is the tone that's set from the most senior levels of the organization? And are employees at a financial institution motivated by doing any and all business, no matter what the risk is? Or are they empowered to act with integrity and choose the right business that aligns with their compliance culture? So many institutions have built training and communications programs to help employees understand what the right business means. So in reinforcing a financial institution's risk appetite statement, incorporating policies and procedures, and training on red flags and high-risk issues. A culture of compliance program should empower employees, not just the second line of defense, but across all areas of the institution, and to think about the risks being presented through their customers, transactions, products, and services, and how they can do their part in mitigating the risk for the institution. An effective compliance training program can help to ensure that an institution is regularly addressing new issues and emerging risks It also helps to ensure that employees have the right knowledge and the skills necessary to perform in their roles, and they understand the risks within the institution and their business area, as well as the consequences of non-compliance.
Tina, I think it's no surprise that every employee watches corporate leaders. They watch what they say, but more importantly, they watch what they do. So I was wondering if you might have a few thoughts on how corporate leaders can communicate that they are taking compliance seriously, literally all the way down through an organization.
That's a great question, Tom. So a financial institution's leaders are responsible for setting the tone from the top, which means setting expectations for the importance of compliance throughout the organization and by modeling behaviors for their employees. This is really important. But it's more than just that. So at K2 Integrity, we train our financial institution clients on the 7 elements of a culture of compliance. So all of these 7 elements are necessary for a strong and effective compliance culture. So I'll just walk you through what the 7 elements are. And the first one is tone from the top. The second one is establishing and communicating an enterprise-wide policies and procedures. The third one is defining clear roles and responsibilities across all 3 lines of defense. The fourth one is ensuring adequate staffing and resources for functions responsible for compliance. The fifth one is designing and implementing a comprehensive compliance training program. Next, establishing compliance incentives for employees. And the last one, number 7, creating efforts to embed and sustain a compliance culture. So a financial institution's leadership must support all of those elements in order to ensure that employees have what's needed to effectively manage their compliance risk.
You know, one of the most underlooked at areas, I think, in compliance has been traditionally training and communications. When I say underlooked at, it doesn't mean it's not done. It's just not thought of as innovative. So when I started in compliance, my first session was a 268-page PowerPoint, 7.5-hour training. And of course, as a lawyer, I sat there and listened to everything. The business guys had their eyes inside their head within about 20 minutes. So I was really wondering, how do you advocate and how do you counsel clients to not only have training in communications, but make it effective and make it engaging and really make it so that you can continually communicate with your employees in a way that they are not only going to understand, but appreciate?
So training and communication is such an important role in the overall compliance program, but also developing a culture of compliance. And it may be the most important role because it's a means by which these critical messages are delivered to all employees. A comprehensive compliance training program, it not only ensures that employees are aware of their responsibilities, but it provides them with detailed information on how they should identify, mitigate, escalate, and report risk. So the most important asset to a financial institution's compliance program is truly each and every employee. So training should assist in creating awareness, developing and refining the skills needed to ensure compliance. The compliance training program should reflect the risks within the organization and should evolve as emerging risks are identified. So in terms of an effective communications program, financial institutions should ensure robust recurring communications. One and done is just not an effective way to deliver communications or develop an organizational culture. So a robust communication program is a really great complement to an organization's training program, and it ensures clear messages in a recurring fashion delivered to all employees. So there are some other ways that we can reinforce some of these messages, and financial institution could maybe issue policy alerts to remind staff of any changes. This information should then be easily accessible and readily available for all employees. Regular town halls, quarterly newsletters, and even short video messages from senior leadership could be effective in distributing messaging and making sure that everybody is aligned with the institution's strategy.
Tina, unfortunately, we are near the end of our time for this episode, but I was wondering if anyone wanted more information on the topics you've talked about or find out about K2's Integrity's role in them, where could they go?
Thanks so much for having me today, Tom. To learn more, please visit our website, k2integrity.com, or you can find us on LinkedIn and Twitter.
I hope our listeners will join us for our next episode where I'm going to visit with Tina again, and we're going to explore espresso shots of training, which I want to hear about. Thanks so much, Tina.
Thanks, Tom.
Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox again. Thank you for listening to this episode 1 in this 5-part series sponsored by K2 Integrity on Integrity Matters, Culture, Training, and Compliance. I hope you will join me tomorrow where I continue the conversation with Tina Rampino and we discuss espresso shots of training. For more information about K2 Integrity, check out their website, www.k2integrity.com. It's also listed in the show notes. This special podcast series, Integrity Matters, Culture, Training, and Compliance, is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.